You think a horror movie that happens at night is scary? How about a horror movie that happens entirely in the daylight? Midsommar, directed by Ari Aster, the man that directed Hereditary. This is his follow-up to Hereditary, his second horror film with A24. This movie stars Florence Pugh from Fighting With My Family as Danny, Jack Rayner as Christian, Will Poulter as Mark, he's the comic relief in this film, William Jackson Harper as Josh, Willem Blongen as Peel, got Alora Torsha as Connie, and Archie, I don't know how to say this last name, so I'll just spell it, Madkwe, as Simon. In this movie, Danny is dealing with a tragedy in her life. She has just lost some family members and she's dealing with this grief. She needs to be around people in order to help her heal. So Christian decides to invite Danny on a trip to Sweden that he's having with his friends. His friends want to go to Sweden because there's this commune going on, a festival being put on by these hippies that their friend Peel is inviting them to go to. So Kristen decides to take along his girlfriend, even though their relationship has not been going very well. They are having a lot of problems. It looks like their relationship might break up, but they're in a bit of a denial about their relationship breaking up. And this is like a last-ditch effort to save the relationship. What happens when they get to the commune is they find out the commune is actually a cult. But by the time they realize it's a cult, it may be too late and they may not be able to get out. And that's pretty much our movie. Now, I really wanted to see this movie because I did like Hereditary a lot. I think Ari Aster is a very unique director when it comes to horror. He really did a great job with Hereditary. Gave me goose pimples. It really did a good job of creeping me out. So I wanted to see what he was going to do with Midsommar. And it's interesting that they spelled the word Sommar, S-O-M-M-A-R. They did it that way because the 4 seasons in this movie are supposed to signify different parts of your life. Spring being the beginning of your life and summer being the middle of your life. These protagonists are in their mid-20s, so they're in the summer of their life, and this movie takes place in summer. Fall being your adult years, and winter are your very old years. When they get to this commune and finding out that this is a cult, they are taking part in the practices. Jack Rayner and Simon, they want to do a thesis on this commune and find out more about this culture because they are both anthropology students, but they don't realize what they're getting into. Now, this movie does a really good job of freaking me out. This movie freaked me out, but in a good way. I really did like this movie. The look of this movie done in pure daylight is awesome. I really like the way they did the daylight and how they used the daylight with the visuals in this movie and how the stuff in this movie freaks you out and everything. Florence Pugh is great in this movie as Danny. I really did like her in the movie. She does a really great job in this film. Jack Rayner is very good as Christian. I did like Will Poulter as Mark, but not everything he was doing as far as the comic relief was funny. Some of it was not that funny, some of it was. William Jackson Harper as Josh, I thought was pretty good in the movie. Connie was just there. Simon, same thing. Some of these characters are basically just fodder for the cult, really. The real main characters are Danny and Christian, really. Will Poulter does get some good character development, but the majority of the character development is focused on Danny and Christian. Peel as well, he gets some very good character development, and there's a cult member named Maya who seems to have her eye on Christian. Now with Hereditary, you could tell that Ari Aster's inspirations came from The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby. And with this movie, Midsommar, it's entirely coming from The Wicker Man. And I'm not just talking about the original. I could see some influence coming from the terrible remake that starred Nicolas Cage as well, because there is a bear in the movie, and if you've seen the Nicolas Cage movie, he does wear a bear costume in the film, so there's that. This movie really does a good job of disorienting you, making you feel like you're on an acid trip. I felt like I was on drugs when I was watching this movie. That's what this movie feels like when you're watching this film. It takes you on the experience. Now, one of the things I found interesting about Hereditary is not everybody liked that movie, and I feel like this movie is going to be equally polarizing, or maybe more polarizing. I didn't like everything about this movie. In fact, I feel like Hereditary is actually a better film than this movie, but I still like this movie a lot. Let's get into the negatives of this movie, because this movie is not perfect and it's not as good as Hereditary, but it is a very good horror film. One of my main problems with this movie was when the red flags are happening before all means of exits are gone. There wasn't enough resistance from our protagonist. Our protagonist just seemed to let everything happen, and I was thinking, we just witnessed something that should be giving you big red flags to get out. Christian and Simon both saying, hey, well, we want to do reports on this commune. I wouldn't want to do reports on this commune after what I just saw. I would want to find a way to get out by any means necessary, because obviously something is not right and I want to get out of here. But to some extent, I could understand why some of these people did want to stay. Obviously, the cult was doing something to them to take away their inhibitions and their free will with the drugs that they were being subjected to, and a lot of the other stuff that's happening it makes them very disoriented and more willing to what's happening around them, which is one of the things that a cult like this would do. So to some extent, I kind of understand that they didn't put enough resistance in order to. But at the same time, I kind of felt like they should have tried to put up some resistance, because the big red flags that happen in this movie really should have made them say, you know what, maybe we should get out of here. But then by that point, the cult has taken away all their means to escape, so as well as their want to escape. It was very interesting how this cult manipulates people into making them do what they want. Now, as I said before, this movie's not for everybody, and then if you didn't like Hereditary, chances are you're not going to like Midsommar. If you did like Hereditary, then chances are you're going to like Midsommar a lot too. I mean, I've heard some people say that they like this movie more than Hereditary. I've heard a good number of people like myself say that Hereditary is a better movie. So it is interesting how the different opinions come up with this movie, but a lot of times that's what movies are for. Movies are for debates of different opinions and everything, and how a movie affects you, and whether it freaks you out or whatever kind of reaction you get. This movie does do a good job of freaking me out and making me feel quite disturbed in a good way. I mean, I do think comparing this movie to Hereditary almost feels like apples and oranges. Hereditary and Midsommar are two different movies, but yet both movies have a little bit of the same beats as well. I did notice a lot of similarities between this and Hereditary, but that is obviously because this movie has the same director. And I really think people should check this movie out, especially if you're a fan of Hereditary. Then you definitely should check out Midsommar, because this movie is really, really good. So I'm going to give this movie a B+. It's definitely worth checking out, and that's all I gotta say for Midsommar.